Manx Radio's Update with Dave Moore.
The time is 5 o'clock. You are listening to Manx Radio. I am Dave Moore, and this is Update. Welcome to the programme. Half an hour of the latest news in the Isle of Man, plus Manx sport, business, travel updates, along with the newsmakers in person. Coming up, an energy company's been ordered to pay a six-figure sum to one of its former directors following a tribunal. The cost of sending letters to go up as the Post Office introduces a new pricing model. Plus a look at some of the island's weird and wacky Christmas celebrations. That is all coming up in the next half an hour. But first of all, with the Update News headlines, here's Christian Jones. Fastamai.
Kroger has been ordered to pay over £130,000 to its former chief executive, Dickon Sargent, after a tribunal ruled in his favour over unpaid wages. The dispute centred on deferred salaries, with the tribunal finding Mr Sargent was owed the deferred salary much sooner than Kroger had claimed. The minister in charge of the Gaiety Theatre has defended making changes at the historic venue, which will allow people to drink alcohol in their seats.
I think the question asked was, would you like to take your drink back to your seat? And who knows if some of those respondents don't have a drink in the interval.
From February next year, the licensing area is being expanded, which will allow theatregoers more freedom, despite a survey which highlighted most respondents were against such a move. A Manx resident says he's grateful for the opportunity to be behind the creation of the Black Mirror comic book series. Kenny Dyack is the director of Twisted Comics, which is a UK-based company that secured the rights to make the official comics, the first of which is expected to be released in the summer.
You never know where it will lead to, but for now it's just being drawn into the comic book and then be able to show that off to your friends at some point.
An 8-time TT winner Michael Rutter says he'll still be riding at the TT despite his move into team management. It was announced yesterday he'd be in charge of the Bathams racing team, which makes its debut in next year's British Superbike Championship. In international news, the teenager accused of killing 3 children at a dance class in Southport entered not guilty pleas to 16 charges. 18-year-old Axel Rudukabana also faces 10 counts of attempted murder. Meanwhile, another teenager's been jailed after inhaling laughing gas while driving and killing his 3 passengers in a crash.
The use of nitrous oxide took place over a number of hours and even up to 30 seconds before the crash. The consumption was taking place.
19-year-old Thomas Johnson has been sentenced to more than 9 years in prison and has been left permanently disabled. And Greg Wallace will be replaced by restaurant critic Grace Dent in the next series of Celebrity MasterChef. Wallace is facing allegations of inappropriate behaviour from more than a dozen people, which he's denied through his lawyers. Those are the Update News headlines. Next at 6.
And we'd move on to the weather. Cloudy with the risk of some light and patchy rain for a time at first, then dry the rest of the evening. Moderate to fresh winds becoming a northwesterly this evening before increasing to become strong early tonight and carrying a few showers which could be wintry over the hills. Scattered showers and sunny intervals tomorrow, again with a risk of these showers turning wintry over the hills. Strong northwest winds will persist for much of the day with temperatures only up to 8 degrees Celsius at best. Cloudy on Friday, a spell of rain arriving during the morning, then clearing in the afternoon, leaving clear spells. Further rain than expected overnight into Saturday.
Manx Glass and Glazing will be closed for Christmas and the New Year from the 20th of December, reopening Monday the 6th of January.
Agricultural Supplies have been serving the good folk of the north for over 30 years, supplying homegrown wheats, whole and rolled oats, working clothing, fencing, animal feeds, parts, tools and emergency supplies. Call Julia on 880206 or find Carol's on Facebook.
Patricia Wild Opticians is celebrating over 30 years of friendly, caring service in Farm Hill and Ramsey. Visit us for professional eye care with stress-free parking. Phone Patricia Wild Opticians on 813 977.
For over 25 years, Langness Maintenance Services have been the block paving specialists, including property maintenance, fencing and landscaping. Fast, reliable and competitive. For a free no-obligation quote, call Paddy on 49667. Langness Maintenance Services, 49667.
One architectural design company has particular expertise in achieving planning approval for a wide variety of projects, from landmark buildings to spectacular homes. Talk to the experts at Ellis Brown and get your project off the ground. For excellence in design, search Ellis Brown.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
And we begin with the news. The Communications and Utilities Regulatory Authority says it will consult on gas tariffs implemented on the Isle of Man. Now, under the Gas Regulation Act 1995, Cura is responsible for setting parameters that the public gas supplier must adhere to when fixing tariffs. Chanel Sakou joins me now. And Chanel, what more can you tell us?
Well, Dave, the authority puts into place regulations that control the gas prices paid by most customers, which are defined as regulated tariff customers and special agreement customers. In the current framework, the two categories are treated differently. Cura says this intervention focuses solely on the special agreement customers category, who are typically large commercial customers consuming large quantities of gas. And it says the core concern is that these customers are facing higher than expected tariffs for the gas they consume.
OK, so I gather you've been looking at gas tariffs, and particularly those which impact these customers recently.
Yes, Dave. While I would not want to link the latest consultation with the stories I have been covering recently, I will say that these two do seem to correspond with the concerns highlighted to Manx Radio. Earlier in the year, I spoke to a Ramsey resident who said they were paying close to £200 a month to heat their sheltered housing apartment. This is due to the fact that the Housing Board is charged at a commercial rate as opposed to the residential rate. It took weeks of talks between the Housing Board and Isle of Man Energy, but the gas company has since offered them the domestic rate. And you can hear from Eric Corkish how this benefits the residents there.
We haven't got the exact figure out yet, but it's going to be considerable. You know, it's gone down from 16.8 pence per kilowatt down to 11.33, so it is a considerable saving that we're going to get.
So, Chanel, has Cura been involved in those negotiations?
Well, from my understanding, the authority was approached during these talks, and since the discussions around gas prices have been happening, I've been told by Onken commissioners and the board of the Southern Sheltered Housing that they too have begun questioning energy prices. The Southern board also told me that it had contacted the Office for Fair Trading and Cura to raise its concerns.
So that begs the question then, what happens next?
Cura will carry out a public consultation outlining proposed changes and the rationale behind those. It says it will also provide the opportunity for all stakeholders to make representations. Final regulations will then go to Tynwald. Cura says it intends to carry out this work as quickly as it can, and it aims to complete its work in the first half of 2025.
OK, thank you, Chanel. And anyone with concerns or queries is urged to contact Cura for further information on 677 022. That's 677 022. Or you can email inquiries@cura.im. And staying with a kind of energy theme, we're now joined by Christian Jones. And Christian, the energy company behind plans to extract gas from the Isle of Man seabed, Kroger, delete where applicable, has been ordered to pay more than £130,000 to a former director following a tribunal ruling. So, Christian, what can you tell us about this case?
Yes. Well, it centres on a dispute between Kroger and its former chief executive officer, Dickon Sargent, over unpaid wages. Mr. Sargent left the company in March 2022 and claims he suffered unlawful deductions to his salary. The issue dates back to autumn 2020, when Kroger's directors agreed to defer their salaries during a challenging financial period. The tribunal describes the company as being in a perilous state.
And how did this situation escalate to a tribunal?
Well, at the time, Mr. Sargent deferred his salary with the understanding that it would be repaid along with a 15% uplift at the next funding round. Those words are key. Kroger, however, argues that repayment was tied to the completion of specific funding for a 3D seismic survey, which is a key part of their £12.75 million project. But the tribunal ultimately ruled in Mr. Sargent's favour, deciding that the deferred salary was owed much sooner than Kroger had claimed.
And what was, therefore, the outcome?
Well, the tribunal awarded Mr. Sargent a total of, I'm going to say this on one go, £131,646.15. If we break that figure down, though, £119,000 £1,000 is deferred salary, £10,000 is for unused holiday pay, and just over £1,800 is for an additional week's pay. However, the 15% uplift that Mr Sargent had sought was excluded, so that was ruled as not to qualify as wages.
And I gather that's not the end of the story. What's next for both parties?
Well, Mr Sargent has until the 16th of January to apply to recover his legal costs. Meanwhile, and it's not something that's relevant to this tribunal, but I'll mention it nonetheless, Kroger is still awaiting a decision from the Department of Infrastructure on its application to vary its licence, which would allow it to skip the 3D seismic survey and proceed directly to drilling an appraisal well in Manx waters.
Well, it does actually sound like a critical period for the company. Thank you, Christian.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
The cost of sending a letter will increase in the new year. The Isle of Man Post Office is introducing a new pricing model. Tessa Hawley has the details.
From the 13th of January, it will cost 90 pence to send a local-to-local letter and £1 to send a letter to the UK. It currently costs 85 pence. There will be a single rate for sending standard large letters, and sending mail internationally will also increase in price. World zones are being removed, which means there'll be a single letter rate to all international destinations, and large letter and parcel rates will be simplified. They'll be going to either EU or rest of world. Services including redirect, business reply and PO Box services will also be hiked by an increase equivalent to CPI of 2.5%. Now, the Isle of Man Post Office says the changes are as a result of a strategic review of postal products, service and tariff offering, and are, it says, designed to meet customer needs and expectations. It says it will continue to offer lower local and UK parcel tariffs in 2025. A statement from the Post Office chairman, Stu Peters, says the board has endeavoured to carefully balance affordability and value for money against the backdrop of rising costs that ensure the continued provision of our high-quality services. We believe the price changes, together with the new product features, respond to our valued customers' changing needs and our commitment to remain the island's leading trusted delivery partner. A further tranche of price and product changes will also be introduced in February. We're none the wiser, though, at this stage what they are. Further details will be provided at the start of 2025.
Tessa Hawley reporting. Michael Rutter says he'll continue to ride at the Isle of Man TT despite his move into team management. Yesterday he announced he'd be in charge of the Bathams AJN Racing BMW team, which makes its debut in next year's British Superbike Championship, with Storm Stacey in the saddle.
Yeah, it's all come together quite quickly, actually. We've been talking at the end of the year at Brands Hatch, and spoke to Storm, and he was interested in riding. So we've put something together for him, and it's going to be like our first year in Superbike with the Bathams team. And obviously with AJN sponsoring us as well, it's allowed us to do it. So, yeah, it's all come together, and here we are. So, yeah, another year coming.
So what's your role?
A bit of everything, I think. Yeah, just it's a bit of. I'm still doing a bit of racing. I'm going to be doing a bit of testing, and obviously just looking over things, and just see where we can go with it.
What about your TT? Does this mean that's the end of you and the TT?
No, God, no. Obviously, we're still sponsoring Craig Neve. We'll still be there, and I'll be there doing something. I don't know what yet. I've been thinking about different stuff over the last few weeks, obviously with just the time scales of everything, and to do with the Northwest and the Isle of Man. But we'll definitely be there, bigger than ever.
But when you say you'll be there, will you be there as a rider, as a team manager? In what role?
I'll definitely be riding. But I don't know what yet.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
And the news is good. Everything's on time everywhere, at sea and in the air. We did have a report of a minor road traffic accident outside Quinns Inn about 10 minutes ago. Traffic was moving. Police apparently are in the area, but there are a few backups. So maybe Worth avoiding the prom if you can this evening.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
And we stay with a bit of a sporting theme as Sir Mark Cavendish has hailed the positive impact sport can have on people from all walks of life. Receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award at last night's BBC Sports Personality of the Year, the Manx missile described accepting the accolade as a huge honour.
Well, that was an amazing reception. Good evening, everyone. And I don't really know. I knew I was getting it, obviously, but I don't really know what to say. I don't like planning anything. I'm not very good at public speaking. That's why I ride a bike for a living, and did ride a bike for a living. I don't know. Like I said in the video there, I think like sport. I've always been a sports fan, and sport has this incredible ability to inspire. Whether you want to compete, whether you just want to do it for fun, whether you want to do it as a family, it doesn't matter what you do. If you want to keep fit, you can do what you want with sport. Specifically cycling, that's what I loved about it. But also to watch as a fan. I'm a sports fan, not just. I don't really watch cycling actually. I watch everything else. But it's I think if we look back them years, a few years ago with COVID and that, as soon as sports started, it was got everyone happy again, and it's nice that we celebrate it every year with Sports Personality of the Year. I watched this growing up, and I think as a nation, as Great Britain, we're such a strong nation in the world of sport, that to be able to celebrate that every year is something pretty special. And I know, having represented the country, when you pull on that Union flag and represent everybody who's behind you, we saw that obviously in Paris this year as well. I think it's such a massive honour, and I think they can say that better than I can, these legends here. But look, I'm waffling on now, but that's very, very nice. That's so lovely. Thank you.
Cool. So Mark Cavendish there on receiving his Lifetime Achievement Award, and it's incredible to think that back 25 years ago, when I was on Manx Radio and covering sport back then, and the RL 360 series organised by Dot Tilbury, and the name Mark Cavendish and quite a lot of other good Manx cyclists kept coming up all the time. Who'd have thought 25 years or so on that he'd have gone on to achieve what he did? We're all very proud of him. You're listening to Update. This is Manx Radio. Unemployment in the Isle of Man rose in November, with 37 more people out of work compared to October 2024, and an increase of 38 compared to November in 2023. Christian Jones has been analysing the figures.
The proportion of economically active individuals registered as unemployed now stands at 0.7%. That's up 0.1% from October. A total of 321 people are registered as unemployed, comprising 216 men and 105 women. Job centre vacancies decreased significantly to 488, down 197 from October, with 65% of roles full-time and 35% part-time. The International Labour Organization estimates that 766 individuals are unemployed and seeking work, reflecting an unemployment rate of 1.6%. The sectors with the most unemployed individuals are in the miscellaneous services, catering and entertainment, and retail. Meanwhile, the greatest number of vacancies are in medical and healthcare, catering and entertainment, and also retail. Long-term unemployment, which is defined as anyone being out of work for 12 months or more, applies to 26 individuals as of November. Geographically, the east of the island has the highest number of unemployed people at 213, followed by the north, south and west at 49, 40 and 19 respectively.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Killing and reviving saints, searching for birds and games of three halves. These are just some of the ways you can celebrate a Manx Christmas this year. But where do these weird and wacky traditions originate? Amy Griffiths has been finding out with James Franklin and Chloe Woodley from Culture Vannon.
Christmas, as we think of it today, is a very polite Victorian concept. But of course, if you were to go back 200 years or so in the Isle of Man, you wouldn't find any of that. It would be fun, it would be partying, it would be relaxing, doing as little work as you can get away with, just laying your hair down, having fun. And a part of this is the Kegish Amajach, a foolish fortnight. And so it's full of foolishness, things which communities can gather around and have fun with as a part of celebrating Christmas as it traditionally would have been. The first one to come up is The White Boys. And this is a play which you'll see on the streets on the 21st of December this year, the last Saturday before Christmas. History tells us it goes back over 200 years and more in the Isle of Man, and the name comes from their weird and wonderful costume. And, well, if you've never seen saints being murdered on the streets and then being revived by a weird doctor to dance and sing, then here's your chance. It's this mad, wonderful thing.
So we've had White Boys, we've gone to see the White Boys. What's next on our Foolish Fortnight tour?
Well, we have Hunt the Wren on St Stephen's Day, 26th of December. And this is very, very old tradition that has been continuous, really. It's probably one of our oldest continuous traditions in the Isle of Man. People gather and they perform the song called Hunt the Wren. And it's a nice community event because anyone can turn up. So there's lots of different theories of why the wren was hunted. There's fairy tales about a siren called Tehi Tegi who was supposed to have lured men into the sea with her beauty, and Manannan, as the ruler of the Isle of Man, banished her and said she could only come back on St Stephen's Day but in the guise of a little wren. And then Manx people could go out and try and kill her and then parade around in the wren bush.
Now, of course, on St Stephen's Day, Boxing Day, Hunt the Wren is not the only event going on. There is also Camag. So my mum plays this every single year, so I'm very familiar with Camag. But for those who aren't, can you just tell us, James?
It's probably the most skillful, difficult sport in the world. Oh, wait, no, hang on. None of that. It's very much a community sport. It's open to all, fun, and people just coming together, having enjoyment. And I think sometimes people who join in, people are surprised that they enjoy it. And before that newfangled football came to these shores, Camag was the sport of the Isle of Man. And basically, what you do, you put down your jumpers at either end for goals, and then you make yourself some sort of hockey-like stick from sticks out of the hedgerow, and then you get yourself a ball, and then comes 3 halves of the greatest game you'll ever play.
Why is it so important that we still maintain these traditions now?
Well, I think at the heart of all of these things is an understanding of who we are as a nation, distinct and special, because that's what we are as Manx people and as the Isle of Man. And also at the heart, it's very much as community. And community is people coming together, enjoying company, feeling like they belong. And what could be more important than that?
Nollet Canal. Kenny Dyack is an Isle of Man resident and the director of Twisted Comics, a UK-based company that secured the rights to make the official Black Mirror books. It's expected to be released next summer.
Currently, we have the opportunity to create or use any of the existing Black Mirror stories and convert them into comic book format, which is great. So we're going to kind of review which stories we want to retell via comic book format and then launch them. I hope one day we might be able to get to create new stories, but that's maybe, a big ask. It'll depend on us proving our worth, basically, and building that relationship.
Comic books.
Yes.
It seems as though it's coming back in the spotlight.
A lot of people have a misconception that comic books really are just for kids. But our content's quite mature and it's quite intelligent, I feel. So I would say our content's more for people who are age 13 and above.
So I understand there's something special happening on the island
Absolutely.
Over the weekend.
So I've been very grateful to be offered a small little stand in Strand Shopping Centre on Saturday from 9:30 onwards, and we'll be selling a collection of our comic books. I've actually partnered with the charity Victim Support in the Isle of Man, so a small proportion of the percentage of every sale we make will go to that charity. Yeah, and we'll be selling our comics, and you can also pop down and say hi to us. We can register you for a competition to be drawn into the official Black Mirror comic book if you wanted to.
What does it mean to be drawn into a comic? That feels quite special.
Maybe just bragging rights to your friends that you can show it off. I don't know, it's just a bit of fun. I guess you'll get to meet the team, and if you like comics, then you never know where it will lead to. But for now, it's just being drawn into the comic book and then be able to show that off to your friends at some point. So we were lucky also to sign a deal with the producer of Terminator and Aliens to make a comic book, which is really nice. And actually, Stan Lee gave us his last IP to make a comic book of as well.
You just casually drop in Terminator and Stan Lee.
We got Lucky Man from him. That was already a TV show. But yeah, Universal approached us to make that into a comic book.
Time now for sports with our sports editor Rob Pritchard. Faster my.
Faster my, Dave. Starting off tonight, a selection of some of the Isle of Man's best footballers will face each other tonight in aid of 2 island organisations. For the third year in a row, the Isle of Man men's national team will take on an FC Isle of Man side in a charity contest at the Bowl in Douglas at 7 p.m. this evening. Money generated is set to be split between Hospice Isle of Man and I'll Stand Up to Suicide. Isle of Man men's national team manager Blaine Slattery says it'll be a chance to both raise money and awareness for good causes and help him plan his team for 2025.
Hopefully, get a good game, raise a good bit of money, and hopefully a bit of entertainment for the people that come down. I think it's really good that we try and make some money for these charities and the work they do. I think Hospice do some incredible work. I'll Stand Up to Suicide. It's one of the biggest killers in men, is my belief, and anything we can do to just raise awareness around that, raise any money, I think is always a good thing.
Elsewhere, tributes are being paid by the Isle of Man road racing community following the death of racing veteran Des Evans. The Southern 100 Club says Mr Evans died on Thursday the 12th of December after battling with illness over the last few months. The organisation is offering its condolences to Mr Evans' family, adding his presence at Ballown will be sorely missed, but the fond memories will remain in our hearts and minds forever. Also paying tribute is the Andros Racing Association, which says it's extremely saddened to hear of the former competitor's death and is also passing on its sympathies to his wife, Wynne, family and friends. Mr Evans also competed on the Snaefell Mountain Course during the 1960s in both the Manx Grand Prix and the Isle of Man TT races. And finally, Isle of Man badminton player Kim Clegg has been called up to represent England. She's been named in the national side to face Scotland in this year's McCoig Trophy event, which will be held in Glasgow next month. The annual tournament is held in memory of Robert McCoig, considered by some to be Scotland's greatest ever badminton player.
Thank you, Rob. And that's it for Update, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thank you to newsreader Christian Jones. And thank you for listening. If you have a comment on the news agenda, a story you think we should be covering, or just want to say hello from near or far, email update@manxradio.com. And the stories you've heard on this update, much more Manx news, plus interviews and podcasts on the web's biggest source of Manx videos, are all at manxradio.com and via the free Manx Radio app. So just like Manx Radio on Facebook, follow us on X and subscribe to the Manx Radio YouTube channel. That's it from me for this evening. Howard Kane is up next, followed by Chris Kinley.